Pretend it's a game. Maybe it'll even be fun.
All right. Well, this is Pop Chaos once again. Jay here.
I'm Michael, new
Yeah.
to this.
Michael's been on the show a couple of times before, and
I'm the nunchuck guy.
yeah. It's Nunchuck.
Nunchuck, don't make me correct you. I know how to use them.
I do too. I only hit myself in the head 20 times.
I hit myself in the nuts once. That was enough.
Well, anyway, yeah. So
Back
Michael
to it, yeah.
hopefully will be a regular now on the show for as long as he wants to. Filling in for Brian, and even when Brian's here and have a third party, we all do our separate things. But today we wanted to talk about video games.
Why not? Everybody else is.
Now you make me not want to talk about video games. I want to talk about Care Bears and My Little Pony.
Let's get back to video games. Okay, not everybody is talking about it.
What about video games of My Little Pony and Care Bears?
Then you got a problem, my friend. I mean, if that's your thing, hey, go for it. I prefer, shooting giant bugs in, like the recently released EDF. But let's talk about something we talked about earlier about your theory on a video game crash.
Well, it's something I've been thinking about for a couple of years now, and you said earlier that you hadn't thought about it until I mentioned it, but kind of want to get your opinion on it because Brian's not a big gamer, so talking to him about it, he doesn't really have that big of an opinion. I mean, he has an opinion, but it's not based in games. It's based in what he reads and sees. My opinion is, everyone knows back in the 80s there was the big video game crash, partially due to E.T. being so terrible and having millions of copies that were unsold.
Oh, come on, that game was awesome.
I loved it. When I was a kid, I loved it. But
yeah, then you go back and look at it, it's like, why the hell did I play this?
Because it came stock with your Atari.
They couldn't give this game away, people. That's how bad it was.
Yeah,
bullshitting. If you want to play a really bad game, play the Fifth Element PS1. Worst game ever.
Ooh, I hadn't played that one.
That was terrible.
But my theory is it's going to be different this time, and what I think will happen is, if you look at the 7th generation of consoles, you've got the PS3, the Nintendo Wii, and the Xbox 360. The graphics have come a long way. Now the Wii, I'm going to throw out because it wasn't up to par as far as
I think actually that was intentional because Nintendo actually did say that they weren't going to try to compete as far as better graphics, better gameplay. They were going for like a concept.
Well, the innovation of the Taku and
the nunchuck controller, which personally that's really what kept me from getting the system.
I didn't like it either.
Yeah.
So you've got these hyper-realistic graphics on the 7th generation consoles. Now, I have a PS4, got Assassin's Creed with it. There's not much difference.
Yeah, it's almost like just a better high-def movie as far as graphics. Now, I have not played the game personally. I've seen some gameplay footage, but it just looks like, yeah, they do look smoother, they do look better, but not by that much for this newer generation.
Well, okay. Now, I have gone on record as saying I wish kids these days had to go back and play the Atari 2600 for a month, then the NES for a month, then the Genesis for a month, or the Super Nintendo, and have to go through all these generations so they would appreciate what they have now. But I look back on that, and they're really not that much difference than in them and the way we were when we were kids. Because when I had an NES, I loved my NES. But then when I saw the Genesis, I'm like, oh my God, it looks so much better. I got to get that. And then the Super Nintendo, oh my God, 16-bit Nintendo, I got to get that. And then PlayStation, like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. Kids, they're the same. It's the same way. But that leads into my theory. When you have such a huge leap from 8-bit to 16-bit, you see the difference in the graphics. And then from 16 to 32, and then 32 to 64, then 128. And then after a while, we just quit counting bits and, we're into PlayStation and
then we started into the high def and stuff, and it's like the bit rate doesn't really matter anymore.
Right. Now, what happens when we're at right now? What is the 9th generation of consoles going to look like? Is it going to be virtual reality? Because that's really all that's left. Because you've got these graphics now that are so good, so lifelike. how does it get better from here?
It's hard to really say. The only way that they could get better is actually have character models that actually look like live-skinned humans. It's like you are actually watching a recorded movie. I can't see them getting really beyond that. I mean, if you do that, you're not really playing a game anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you really want that in your video game? If you go back to the Sega CD, which I love the Sega CD, most of the games for it were movies, interactive movies, and people hated it.
Yeah, I remember, like, what was that one?
There was Night Trap.
Night Trap, that was the...
Hard.
I remember that.
Night Trap caused a huge... That's the whole reason for the video game rating board now.
Yeah, because they claimed that you were trying to kill the girl or something in
They
there.
were trying to save the girls, but they claimed, and I saw the news reel, that there was actually rape in the game. And this was back in like 93, 94. There's not. There's like one shower scene where this chick's in like this nightgown, and these guys are like sucking blood from her neck.
And how is that any different from like Fright Night, which came out, correct me if I'm wrong, probably came out around the same time.
Fright Night, if I'm not mistaken, came out in the 80s.
Oh, did it?
I think.
Okay.
The original.
Well, like vampire movies of the day, kind of like Bram Stoker's, Dracula. How is that any different? I mean, you got a wolf that looks like he's getting on top of the girl, drinking her blood, and raping her at the same time. How is that any different?
Well, no, they have like this mechanical arm, and it's got this like wrench-looking hand that wraps around her neck. And they pull a trigger, and this needle goes in her neck, and it's
that sounds an awful like Runaway did with the spiders and Gene Simmons, and
it's a B-movie video game.
Exactly. It was definitely a B-movie interactive video game type thing. Yeah.
And Lieberman and company went nuts, and then Mortal Kombat. But anyway,
and Mortal Kombat should be the real reason they have the ESRB.
But well, I mean, those two games really got it going. But getting back on the topic, though, I mean, really, I mean that's why I think there's going to be a crash. And then you've got games, these turnovers like Capcom maybe going out of business.
Yeah, and you've got several gaming companies have gone out of business. I don't think it was just because of the recession that hit in 07. I think just a lot of people are, they've seen the same game over and over again. Even the rehashes that they have done with, say, Sonic, and even several other games, almost like Metal Gear. Recently, Metal Gear Revengeance, I heard did okay, but didn't do as well as they had hoped. Same thing with, what was that one game I was reading about recently? THQ did a game, did real well, but it didn't do as well as they wanted.
It didn't save their company.
Exactly.
Well, okay. I know you like FPSs.
Yeah.
I grew up on FPSs, but I grew up on stuff like Doom, Wolfenstein, Rise of the Triad.
Wolfenstein was probably the one I played first, yeah.
Modern FPSs I just don't like. I'm sorry, I can't get into them. But you got a Call of Duty game that comes out every year.
Yeah, I agree.
You can set your calendar to Call of Duty releases.
Exactly.
When is it too much of the same thing?
Well, let me throw a name out there to you that has done the same thing over and over again. Dynasty Warriors.
And they've got a new one coming out that's based on Legend of Zelda. Have you heard about this?
No, I had not.
There is a Zelda game coming out that is Dynasty Warriors. It's basically the Dynasty Warriors gameplay set in Hyrule, with all of the enemies being the Dongas and creatures from Zelda.
I had not
and you
heard
play
this.
as Link.
I did not know that.
I mean, it looks fun, but once again, we had the Gundam Dynasty Warriors.
Hey, I played those. I loved them, but I agree that
It's the same shit. There's nothing new. And if you go back to like the PlayStation or even before that, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, there was so many new games, so many different types of games.
Oh yeah, PS2 especially had about the biggest library of any game system in history.
I'm not exactly sure what the number of games for the PS2 was. I know that the NES had like 800 games.
Yeah.
Genesis, I think, had probably maybe even more than that. I'm not sure, but about the same number. The SNES had, I think, about 600 or 700. So to have more than that, which I don't doubt the PS2 had more than that, because everybody was making games for it.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it really had a hold of the industry before the Xbox come out, and even the GameCube. I'm not sure which system came out first: PS2, GameCube, Xbox. I'm
Well, I
not
know
good-
the PS2 came out before the Xbox.
Yeah, I know that for sure. I just don't know where the GameCube came in. But the PS2 was really one of the better systems of a console generation. And whatever you wanted to play, the PS2 had it.
Yeah, it did.
Mainstream, if it was crap, if it was one of your guilty pleasure games, basically whatever you felt like playing, it had.
Well, I feel like that all these things, you got people that buy a game. I mean, I've already seen the Xbox One and the PS4 have not been out for 6 months now.
Yeah, about it came out what, like late November, something like
Yeah,
that,
I mean, I
early
got it on
December.
launch date, and then like no joke, a week later, I went to McKay's in Knoxville, and they've already got PS4 and Xbox One games.
Yeah, behind the glass, mind you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, these turnover rates are so great. You buy a game, someone beats it, and then they take it back the same day and return it for something new. There's no challenge to the games anymore, so that's hurting, in my opinion, the market, the industry. GameStop, game companies are going after GameStop for their buying used games and selling used games things.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with Microsoft wanting to, lock a game to a person's
DRM.
account. Yeah, and that got really, really bad press as far as Microsoft goes. I watched some of the footage from E3 last year about the representative, one of the reps from Microsoft. It was basically saying that if you don't have an Xbox One, if you want to play offline, we've got the system for that, luckily, and it's the Xbox 360. It's like they were bashing their own product.
Oh yeah, and he was even saying that about the military, because people in the military were saying, well, we can't be on 24/7, we'll go buy the Xbox 360. Kind of a shitty thing to say, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's kind of a slap in the face for a lot of the gaming industry. And they really, screwed the pooch on that one. So,
And then they turn around and they take the DRM out. But if you read their little fine print, they have the right to go in and add it back in anytime they want to.
did they really do that?
Yeah, they did.
Oh. Well, no wonder. Hey, I'm not getting an Xbox One. Fuck you,
That's-
Microsoft.
I used to love the Xbox. I started out hating it, then I bought one, loved it, and I'm sorry, I hate it again. And
I still got my 360. I still play it. I've got a PS3. I'm in between the two.
well, the bad thing about the PS3 was there just wasn't very many good games for it.
Well, it's the same thing for the Xbox. I mean, the Xbox came out about a full year before PlayStation 3. And so they had more time on the market. They had more games for it. And even now, probably still have more games for the 360 than they do the PS3. I think it's true that both systems just didn't have a lot of good games with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked earlier, one game series that I can think of that both systems had that was good was Borderlands.
Yeah.
You had the Elder Scrolls that were on there, and there's several others, but it doesn't seem like they're few and far between. And I kind of look at my collection from sometimes. You look at my PS2 collection, I've got almost 300 PS2 games. You look at my PlayStation 3 collection alone, I've got maybe 30 at most. 30,
I don't even have that many for
Yeah.
PS3.
30 or 40 at most. And it's even less with the 360. And I have played a lot of games for the 360. I'm not bashing Halo. I'm not bashing any of the games it sells, but there's just not that many, ones that stand out. It just seems like just rehashes of what we keep seeing.
Okay, since you mentioned Halo,
Okay.
that's something else we talked about earlier. Now I
Yeah.
want your opinion on this. Video game mascots. Where are they?
You mean like Sonic was? Or?
Right, okay. If you remember back in the day, you had Mario was Nintendo,
Yeah.
you had Sonic was Sega, and that's really all that you had.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me, and maybe this is just me not getting it, but game companies aren't really using their mascots anymore. I mean, like,
Hmm.
the Nintendo Wii U came out, and there was no Mario game for it. There was no Zelda game for it. There was no Metroid game for it.
Yeah.
They recently released the Mario game, but why was it not a launch title?
Now that I can't answer, but you do have a point. Xbox One, I'm amazed that there wasn't a Halo game out.
Well,
for
they're
it.
making one, but
Yeah.
this is like what, the first time they've released an Xbox where Halo wasn't a release title? No, can't say that because the original Xbox, it wasn't a release title, but it was shortly thereafter.
Actually, it wasn't. I thought Halo was a launch title.
No,
for
it
the
came out
original.
about a month or two later, I think.
Okay, and
It's
it was the savior of Xbox. Yes, I said it.
It really was, because the Xbox was doing horrible
Yeah.
those first couple of months it was out, and then Halo came out, and it just took off.
Exactly.
But then PlayStation, who do they have as a mascot? They got Kratos from God of War, and that's about all I can think of.
That's about the one off the top of my head too. Is from the God of War series. I never was cared for, but hey, that's just my opinion.
I just feel like that they're getting away from what truly made gaming fun.
Exactly.
And then there was also one last thing that I was going to say and get your opinion on. Another video for another time. Maybe next time we'll talk about this. The console wars back in the 80s and 90s. I talked to you about that a few minutes ago. What do you think? Do you think that kind of thing needs to come back? Marcus Beers, Annoyed Gamer, love you, Mark. But you disagree. You say that we should not have a console war for the 8th generation. I disagree. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, no matter what anybody does.
I agree.
Because each company, this is true with any company, they're only out really to do one thing: make money. Everybody makes money in their own way, or with whatever company that they have. I just think it's going to be an ongoing thing. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it. I'm not saying we should. I think almost it's a necessary evil.
Okay, and I agree. And I want to get in on that on our next episode because I don't think we have enough time to really cover that. But the next time, if we talk about that, I want to talk about why we think that, how far should it go? Should it go as far as, the Genesis does, what Nintendo don't, the smear campaigns and everything, the schoolyard brawls between Nintendo's better or Sega.
Exactly.
Or should it be more focalized and, open for discussion like we're doing now?
Exactly.
But
ultimately, and this is even with me, from everybody I've heard, for example, with the PS4 and Xbox One, I am personally still disgusted with Microsoft over the whole deal that they pulled at E3.
Yeah.
Sony really picked it up. They really care more about their gamers. I'm not saying Sony. That is my opinion. I think Sony is better than Microsoft. But,
everybody has their flaws.
Everybody has their flaws. I agree.
Yeah, but Microsoft comes out, TV, you can hook up your system to your TV. Well, duh, that's what it's for, They talk about hooking up your cable box and you can watch TV while you're playing a game.
Who the hell?
Who wants to split their screen and be watching The Price is Right over here and playing Halo over here? Shoot Bob Barker in the head. Really? Who does this?
You'd be surprised.
I have 2 TVs hooked up to my PC at the house when I do the editing for Pop Chaos. Got a third one over here that I have hooked up to a DVD player. Okay, yeah, I'll put a DVD on for noise, glance over and watch it every once in a while. But if I'm playing a game, I'm focused on the game.
Exactly. You kind of have to be. I do the same thing when I build my models. I bought a laptop and I will throw a movie in, or I'll even have my music.
Yeah.
Not really paying attention to the movie. I just have it there for noise.
A lot of times I'll put in a movie I've watched a million times. Army of Darkness.
Exactly. Just one by heart that you don't have to constantly sit there and watch.
You can see it in your head while you're hearing it, and you're still painting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, never watch a comedy or listen to a comedy while you're model painting. It doesn't end well.
Which that's something else I want to start doing here on Pop Chaos. Get Michael, he does Gundam models and stuff. Get some of his models here in the show. And this is going to be the new studio. Have not got moved in yet. This is bare bones. So hopefully we'll have a lot of posters and cool shit up sometime soon.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm Jay.
I'm Michael.
And we are Pop Chaos.
Yes, we are.
Next time, we'll be back with more.
Okay, thanks.
Later.